welcome back to another episode of
My Waifu
and me. And on today's episode, the waifu's going to tell you what we're going to be doing.
As mentioned in our last video, we have a special surprise. We are doing a collab with Laura Grace or LauraGraceAuthor on Instagram. I'll put up her channel, her Instagram page, somewhere around the screen. So first we want to just thank Laura Grace for reaching out to us to talk about this idea, and we're really excited to get started. So the idea is that we exchanged 5 titles with each other each, and we were challenged to come up with suggestions for each of those titles. So for us, since we are a couple, we decided to each come up with a suggestion for each of her titles. So Laura Grace, I hope you're ready because it's gonna be 10 suggestions.
10
Sorry
suggestions.
that word. Maybe it's a little much, but
No.
hopefully it inspires some people to check out some new manga. Most of the stuff that Laura suggested to us, we hadn't really heard of before, except for one. So it was really exciting to get to research these and even read them a little bit, and kind of relate them to some of our favorite manga that we've read. So
yeah, absolutely.
The first one that we are going to talk about is Waiting for Spring. So we actually just showed this off in our last video because it was in our monthly haul, and I was able to read it just the other night. And it's a sweet little romance about a girl who becomes friends with guys that are on the basketball team. So for my suggestion, just because of the kind of sweet, innocent romance aspect, I thought that Fruits Basket would be a great suggestion for people that like waiting for spring. It doesn't involve sports, but it is similar where the main character, Toru, she kind of gets taken in by a group of brothers, and if you're familiar with Fruits Basket, they turn into zodiac animals. So
it's a little more mystical.
It's a little more mystical, a little more supernatural than this. This is pretty realistic, but there's kind of that like love triangle kind of thing going on, and it's high school romance. So I'd say that the age range is similar to this. Jerry, what's your suggestion?
Absolutely. So after checking out Waiting for Spring, thanks for the suggestion, Laura. I would suggest that if you're a fan of this series, you check out one of the newest Weekly Shonen Jump titles, Blue Box. And the reason why I suggest this series is because Blue Box also features a prominent romance story told through the lens of individuals who play sports. It is a little bit more on the shonen side, and that's sort of my specialty. As I go through all my suggestions, I'm going to try to take some of these suggestions Laura gave us and see if I can kind of twist them into a little bit more of a shonen perspective, so that if you are a fan of some of these, you might be able to dip your toes into some shonen manga series that might be more interesting to you because they kind of connect back to some of these titles. So, like I said, Blue Box is definitely one to check out. It does only have, I think, less than 20, or a little over 20 chapters out as of now, and the only way to read that is through the Shonen Jump app, which is about, I think it's $2.99. You just pay $2.99 and you're able to read it on there or read it on the browser. But that would be an awesome series to check out because, again, it probably features high school students also playing sports, also in a romance situation, but again, shonen lens. So there is a little bit of a shift in the perspective when you're reading that story as opposed to a story like Waiting for Spring. But if you are a fan, definitely check out Blue Box.
Alright, so the next suggestion that she threw our way was Rosie in the Labyrinth. Again, we showed this off in our most recent haul, and this one is about a group of 3 people, Rosie and her, I'd like to call them 2 cat dads.
Cat dads. She's got cat dads.
And it's very mystical. There's a lot of very supernatural stuff going on, but there's kind of some funny stuff, some shenanigans in there. So I thought what would be perfect, so we actually own this one, is Toilet Bound Hanako-Kun. Also has a lot of supernatural elements. It takes place within a school, but it almost kind of has that labyrinth feeling to it because there are special places in the school, 7 of them. School mysteries is what they call them. And you get sucked into the realm of each school mystery as we go through the story.
Very good one for October.
Yeah, really good for October, especially because it's kind of spoopy too. So, but also really cute, very cute character designs, kind of like in Rosie. and also some funny shenanigans that go on too. Jerry?
Absolutely. For me, when checking out Rosie and the Labyrinth, I really liked the aspect that it was like a young child, magical people around them, the magical setting. And it reminded me of one of my favorite anime series by Wit Studio titled The Ancient Magus Bride. So if you haven't checked out The Ancient Magus Bride, it also follows a young child, and she's essentially brought in by a mystical protector that sort of takes her under. The difference here is that Magus Bride is a little bit darker. It's definitely a series that's not going to be as cutesy. You know, this kind of has a bit of that spunk to it. So it's, imagine a bit of a darker take on this Rosie and the Labyrinth sort of concept. There is some potentially triggering concepts in Magus Bride, actually. So be aware of that going into it. So just be aware going into that one, because Rosie doesn't really have that. But if you were a fan of Rosie and you like the mystical setting and you kind of want something maybe a little bit darker, something a little bit on that dark side, definitely check out The Ancient Magus Bride.
Awesome. So the third suggestion that Laura gave us is The Way of the Househusband, which is actually one of our favorites. We have every volume that's out so far.
Yep.
We watched the Netflix anime, even though it was like not as fulfilling for most people.
I had a blast.
But you know, it's great. You know, it's voiced by Overhaul. So.
Kendra Asuda, you are the man.
By the way, we play a game where we call it Find Overhaul because he's been in like every anime recently.
This man, the voice actor that plays this guy, literally like 15,
like
20 animes. He comes in so many animes per season. It's hard not to see him or catch him if he's supporting cast, he's main cast, he does all of it.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But so for this one, I want to suggest Sakamoto Days. This is also a title that is only available for a short time now, though, on Shonen Jump app. But I said that because it is going to get a physical English print come next year, I think in January, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So,
early next year, I think.
Really not too far off. And it's also about somebody that is like ex-violent crime life. For Sakamoto, he was an ex-assassin instead of ex-yakuza like our character Tatsu here. But he also has a family that he has established, but now it is more action. There is a little bit more violence because people from his past are coming back to try to get him and kill him, basically.
Yeah.
Other assassins are trying to kill this ex-assassin. But it also has a lot of humor and wholesomeness in it, just like Househusband. So that's my suggestion. And
for me, I'm going to suggest one we also currently own physically. So we currently own the series Hinamatsuri, which is also very similar to The Way of the Househusband. So here's the deal with the Hinamatsuri. This guy here, he is a yakuza. He is currently still in the organized crime. And this young girl here, she is a psychic. And she just literally drops into his life. And he has to kind of balance this idea of being a dad to some extent. It's really odd. It's a wacky, over-the-top comedy, which kind of falls in line with Househusband, which does a lot of just that over-the-top, fun comedy action. But also just the fact that it's sort of someone who maybe would be considered a delinquent or someone who might be perceived one way in a lot of circumstances that are not maybe their natural way of being. And I think that's sort of why I would suggest Hinamatsuri. It's got that same vibe, same sort of energy that Way of the Househusband does, and it's a really fun read and very funny as well. So definitely check out Hinamatsuri, physically in print as well here in the US.
The next one, unfortunately, we were not able to find.
Yeah, we couldn't find volume 1.
So
sorry, Laura.
Yeah, so sorry, Laura. But I guess that means it's pretty popular.
Yeah, it must be.
Which isn't a surprise. This next one is called Play It Cool, Guys. It seems like a really fun manga. So we did have to, yo ho ho.
Yeah, we sailed the high seas.
So we sailed the high seas to figure out what this manga was about.
Yeah.
And it's basically an ensemble of some quirky dudes that are clumsy, and they just get into all sorts of like issues and shenanigans. But it's humorous. It's comedy. So I thought something similar, and this is something that I read a really long time ago, when I was in middle school, like 15 years ago or something. And it's not a cast of boys, but it's a cast of girls, and it's Azumanga Daioh. It's definitely older, but it also kind of has that same feeling where the girls just get into all kinds of just crazy stuff, but it's really, really funny. So Play It Cool Guys kind of reminded me of Azumanga Daioh.
Absolutely. And for me, I wanted to kind of play off of the character archetypes present in Play It Cool Boys. Play It Cool Guys? Play It Cool Boys?
Guys.
Play It Cool Guys.
My notes say guys.
I wanted to play off the archetypes present, which is this idea of sort of the cool but clumsy character, right? Now, a manga series that I was into a lot when I was a young kid also, but it's really hard to get a hold of nowadays because it is very out of print, is Katekyo Hitman Reborn, which is a series that features the main character Suna, who's also a clumsy MC. He's very clumsy, he kind of gets himself in these clumsy situations, but he's also kind of, you find out, kind of a bad A. He's also like the inheritor of this mafia family, which is sort of an interesting concept. Obviously, the first half of Katekyo Hitman Reborn is a little bit more like Play It Cool Guys, but eventually, at some point in the series, it shifts and becomes more of a shonen battle, shonen action series, which you might actually end up enjoying because it becomes more plot-driven and plot-heavy at that point. It's really episodic in the beginning, very similar to Play It Cool Guys, but then it shifts. So if that's something that interests you, the idea of taking a character that's similar to Play It Cool Guys, puts them in a slice of life setting, and then shifts into a shonen battle manga, then you've got to check out Reborn. It's definitely one of those slept-on Shonen Jump series from sort of the early 2000s that doesn't get a lot of talk anymore, and since it is so deep out of print here in the US, it's really hard to get your hands on physically, so you would have to read it some other way, but I would totally suggest you check it out. It's a really cool series.
Okay, so the very last one that Laura suggests to us is A Sign of Affection. So this one is a romance, and one of the characters, the girl right here, she actually uses sign language. So obviously it made me think of A Silent Voice. It's very similar. It doesn't seem as tragic.
Yeah.
I don't think. A Silent Voice definitely has some of those darker themes as well, where you could possibly be triggered. So obviously be aware of that. But I wanted to throw that suggestion out, especially because there's going to be really nice hardcover editions of A Silent Voice coming out very soon.
It was supposed to be very soon. They've actually just been delayed into early next year, so.
So delayed, but, there's already a regular, paperback collection that you can buy.
Box set you can buy as well.
And of course the movie is amazing. It made us cry like babies. So, but yeah, also a great romance that highlights people that use sign language, Japanese sign language especially. And Laura, I don't know what you did to me, but you really put me on one because I think I'm about to go and buy the rest of what is out currently, which I think might just be 2 and 3, but
yes.
We'll see. I don't know. I'm excited to read more, though.
Absolutely. So my suggestion for A Sign of Affection kind of takes it in a whole different direction. And I know it's not exactly the same, but I think that there is some similar theming that's present in this other series. So I want to suggest the seinen manga series Real as a suggestion for fans who are A Sign of Affection. Now realize that obviously Real is some really hard-hitting stuff, and there's some really emotional scenes, but it's also a very empowering series because it features a young man who is essentially he's not able to walk anymore, and because of that, his love of basketball kind of dwindles. He ends up being able to play basketball in his wheelchair and pursues wheelchair basketball. There's drama infused, there's a lot of heart in this series, and Takehiko Inoue, who's a wonderful writer known for Slam Dunk and Vagabond, just put so much into Real. It's currently come off of hiatus after being hiatus for a long time, so it's now actually being serialized again back in Japan. I think we're even getting a new volume getting published here in the US, even though all the old volumes are deep out of print, so it's tough to get your hands on. But hopefully, with the new volume coming out, I'm hopeful they might reprint some of those old volumes. I'm hopeful, because I would like to add all of that series to my collection. Okay. But it is a really great series that also just deals with managing, specifically in this circumstance, someone managing a disability is what Real's about, because they're no longer able to walk, and sort of coming to terms with what that means in their romance, in their life, in their relationships. And I think that's really powerful. So there's some overlap in theming between these two series. One is a more seinen series, obviously, but I still think it's a strong suggestion. If you really like something like A Sign of Affection, just Real's gonna make you cry also. That's all I'll say. It'll make you cry also. It's gonna cry heavy tears of true love for your fellow man. I don't know. But Real's great.
Yeah, shout out to HBO. I see you reading Real, girl. I know you're reading it.
We see you.
HBO knows what's up. Okay, guys, so that's it. Those are our suggestions for Laura's 5 that she gave us. We'll put everything down in the box, the description box below, because we want to make sure that you didn't miss anything and that you know what her suggestions were and then what our recommendations are based on those suggestions. So again, Laura, thank you so much for reaching out. This was really great. It was such a fun challenge for us to think of recommendations for each of these series. And if you haven't already, go over to Laura's channel and she has her recommendations for the ones that we sent over to her. So thanks again so much, and we're really happy that we did this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for this collaboration. It was a lot of fun thinking of other titles. I think for me it was just fun shonen-ifying all of these different titles, and maybe it'll give you some new shonen series to maybe check out that you might actually like as well, or anyone that's a fan of some of these series that might have some other suggestions as well. But absolutely, you guys know the drill. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe here on our channel, on the My Waifu and Me channel, because it helps to build our community here on the channel and helps to build our just everyone that we get to interact with. We love interacting with new people who love anime and manga, and that's what we're trying to do with this channel. But additionally, you need to go like, comment, subscribe to Laura as well. Make sure that you go over there, give Laura some love. If you're a fan of our channel, make sure you jump over there. Laura is great. She was great to work with, and we really enjoyed doing this collaboration with you. On that note, this has been another episode of My Waifu and Me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you keep reading manga, keep loving manga, and keep collecting manga. This has been My Waifu and Me, and we're saying peace.